What's up?
So, so
Oh, hey.
I'm I just saw myself on the screen. I think I'm keeping with the thing that's kind of become a thing now. When rock stars get older, they start turning into grandmothers. Look at me right now.
Those are
I look like somebody's grandma.
those aren't even your glasses. Where'd you find those?
These are my new attempt at progressive lenses. I don't like I've just been wearing readers because I can't see anything. Like it started like 6 months ago. Well, maybe a year ago. But like I started to not be able to see, I started seeing double and all kind of weird stuff close up. I can read anything and see anything way off in the distance, but anything within like a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet, I have trouble with. So I tried progressive lenses before and they didn't work for me. And so I figured, hey, they didn't work the first time, try them again.
How
So,
how difficult is it for you to see like when someone holds up a sign of the crowd? Like, do you ever think that sometimes these people make this really cool sign? Like, oh, Eric's gonna love this, and not realizing you actually can't see the sign. They just
well,
think you're ignoring them.
I can see the signs usually. Uh, uh, I usually see all the signs actually. Um, So just know that I see your sign, even if I don't acknowledge it sometimes. I'm not, we've talked about this before. Some nights I'm like in my own head. And so I kind of stick to the mission, you know. And then other
Yeah,
nights I'm more outgoing about it. So, but I always see the signs.
I like walking into a room where like we like was like press or like there's a family room and like I put out the vibe that I'm looking for something. It's just so I'm not distracted by someone else come up to me, bothering me, asking me for a question or something.
Right.
Where I use that to my advantage. Where I'm kind of like, okay, he's looking for a specific thing in this room.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I'm just doing it to avoid eye contact, all sorts of communication whatsoever.
Yeah, man. I'm just such a contradiction, like I like people, but I hate people. And it's the weirdest thing, man. Like I sometimes I enjoy being around people in conversation. I enjoy deep conversation. We kind of got into this last week a little bit, but like stuff like what you and I do, like this is easy for me. But small talk, man, just like forget about small talk. Like I have no capacity. And it's not that I have no capacity for it. I just suck at it. And I, as soon as small talk starts, I'm just like, can I get out of here? How fast can I get out of this situation?
Yeah,
And
I always think that small talk. A lot of times people use it like they're looking for something or like to like get something out of you. Where I'm kind of like, it's tough for me to judge like where that small talk is going. Like, is it just small talk just to talk? If that's the case, I don't want to hear your lips. Like, I'm the same way.
yeah,
Like, we
yeah,
just did that show in New Jersey, and the security and staff would be like, "Oh, you guys like New Jersey?" I'm just kind of like, "No."
that's what I mean, like that kind of stuff. And it's like, I mean, people are just wanting to have I understand that like with the business that I'm in and you're in, people want a
Yeah,
connection, and so I'm never rude about it or anything, but I just don't know what to say in small talk. Like I don't care if and by the way, it doesn't matter if it's a fan or the head of a record label. Like if
yeah,
I've got nothing in common with you at past, you know, a head nod and like, hey, how's it going? Then why should we take it any further than that? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
like I would prefer if I meet a fan, if they actually ask me an interesting question and then it's like, oh yeah, I can,
yeah. Or
we
something like
can,
batch. Like, what do you think of this latest Bigfoot sighting? I'd be like,
yeah,
I'll talk to you for 2 hours. But if you're
yeah.
asking me what I think of the weather on the beach right now, I'm gonna tell you
But
if I,
I'm just as guilty of that as everyone else. Like when I have nothing else to talk about, what do I talk about the fucking weather? I
correct,
don't, you
correct.
know, it's easy. Everyone's experiencing it, so we can talk about it. And but like so Kelly and I were going out on the boat with some friends on Memorial Day, and well, Sunday before Memorial. It wasn't on Memorial Day, it was Sunday. Um, and I was just so worried that like we hadn't seen these people in a long time, and we're super good friends with them. But like I already start getting like worried that I'm not gonna have anything to talk about, or that it's gonna be uncomfortable or whatever.
Interesting.
And dude, I don't know why. I'm like I actually like kind of like pre think about stuff to talk about, so there's no like dead air, you know.
Like when we go on days off, like fishing or hiking, like the talking is there, but it's very minimal. Do you feel that we're able to communicate with each other without even talking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like you and I don't have to talk. Brent and I don't
Correct.
have to talk. Barry and I don't have to talk. Zach and I don't have to talk. You
But we're
know,
having these
like
crazy conversations that are like we'll see the same thing, and I know how you're gonna perceive this thing. I'm gonna perceive it this way. I'm gonna perceive it. We're gonna have this talk without even opening our mouths. It's super
yeah.
weird.
Well, because we know each other really well, and so like I can. But the other thing too is we live with each other, so we go through massively long periods of sitting in the same room and not saying anything, and so
Yeah.
that uncomfortable thing is out the window at that point. Like there is no reason to feel like you have to run your mouth or talk about something. And but man, dude, I just like I have no. It's not that I suck at small talk. Like I have no desire for it. Like I don't. It just like then, and that's one of the reasons why I'm bad at business too. Probably is because I just, you know, I it's it goes past not being able to do it. It goes into disinterest. Like I'm disinterested in small talk. I'm interested in something in depth,
Yeah.
And we talked about the guy that I sat on the plane with that time, sat next to me, and he was talking about flat Earth, and he was a pilot. Like that went from like, God, I don't want to talk to this guy because of small talk to like, oh, hang on a second,
Oh yeah.
like
Let's turn
this,
this thing around.
yeah,
Yeah.
this could be really interesting. And then I sat there and like, you know, talk to the guy for 2 hours about what his concepts are on flat Earth, just because he's a pilot and he thinks the Earth is flat. I find that and he was a military pilot too, on top of everything. So, and as a Delta pilot currently, and thinks the Earth is flat. I think that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Uh, but like usually, man, I get on a plane. It's like I can't get I can't get my in-ears in fast enough because I just don't want to talk to the person next to me, just
Yeah.
because and another thing too is 9 times out of 10, if I do get into it with them, it ends up on me, like what I do for a living, and then it's just questions ad nauseum for 4 hours about music, and you know, I don't know, and it's not that, dude, I'm not like, but like I don't know. Like I enjoy deep conversation like what you and I do here, or deep conversation with anybody really. It's probably why I have a tendency to overshare with people when I am in a conversation with them. It's because like all of the walls come down when we start talking about interesting stuff,
Right.
or something, or we get into something in depth. It's like I don't have any secrets at that point. So I'll overshare everything. I'll tell people shit they didn't want to know. Probably.
Right. It's it's like super shitty weather out here, like downpours all night, all day today. Like,
Mm.
it's well. Do you ever feel like when we're working, when you're on stage or I'm doing my thing, or you're in your work environment, but when you're home and trying to be creative, do you find that you are more conducive to be creative when it's shitty weather out and you're forced to be inside, or is nice weather prompt you to be more kind of like, oh, this is a great day, I'm gonna create.
Yeah, I'm not a shitty weather person. Like I like beautiful days. Like we're having beautiful weather here actually. So I'm not
So
gonna I
you
won't
can
tell you about it,
create.
but
That makes you feel like you can be more creative, like
yeah, I mean,
productive.
look, there is no time schedule for the depression, right? Like it can be beautiful outside and I can be like in the worst place I've ever been.
Right.
Um, but let's just say all things being okay, yeah, I'd rather uh I feel way better about being creative when it's nice outside. Doesn't mean that like it's strange because I'm not necessarily talking about how nice it is, but there's just something about when it's um when it's bad outside, when it's gloomy and dark and stuff. I guess I feel gloomy and dark, and so that makes me not want to do,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know.
it's just kind of weird. Like I feel like normally I'm an outside person, yard work, and like I love being outside. When it's raining, I hate wet shoes. I hate everything about it. So
Yeah.
I like I woke up trying to create this new character for my story, my comic book, and like I was able to do it so quickly. Whereas if it was nice out, I would be distracted by the turkeys or the rabbits in the yard and stuff like that. Where now it's pouring out, I'm just kind of like, oh, I can write. I have like no like there's like no harness on me. I can just create. I think I kind
Yeah.
of like that vibe.
Huh. Yeah, it's interesting because it's I'm kind of the opposite. Like I feel like I get but I mean there is no like, I mean I've written plenty of stuff with shitty weather going on. It's just um yeah, I guess maybe it's interesting how I'm more inspired to do when it's nice out and you're more inspired to do when it's not.
Right.
So
Interesting.
There is no you know, there is no formula, man,
Yeah.
for
The
creativity.
from the last episode, people love the hottest show part, and a bunch of people wrote in. Now, where's Eric playing where it's the coldest? We play for Shinedown.
Oh God. There've been what those are more difficult to remember. There have been some festivals like in the fall or in the fall usually where like what was it recently we played where our fingers were like super cold? We were talking about that. It was like it was on the last run somewhere, like the last full tour we did. There was a show somewhere that was like kind of
Was
cold.
was it Denver, like Colorado area? Because we ended out
Maybe.
west.
Yeah, it might have been New Mexico or
Oh, New
Aero.
Mexico got cold that night.
Yeah, maybe something like that. But like going on stage and like your fingers are actually like kind of stiff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Salt Lake.
Oh, I'll tell you one, man. One of the coldest things we've done is that the video for Dead Don't Die. That was miserable cold, man.
Oh,
Like
that was
that
awesome though.
so that video for Dead Don't Die, the place we're in is it's an old sewage plant and it's actually now a museum. It's in London. It's now a museum for like sewage and toilet museum. Like I'm not kidding. That's what it
They
is.
have a shit monster as a logo, as a
Yeah,
character.
yeah. Their character is this. What do they call it?
I have pictures of it.
The grease something. What was it? It's like supposed to be made up of grease, right?
Yeah,
It was some sort
grease,
of
toilet paper. Yeah,
sewage monster that is
yeah.
like their logo. But anyway, that was in December when we shot that, and it was November or December, one of the two.
December.
And there's no heat in there at all, and it was just dank, wet, cold in
Like
that
catering
place.
brought us like Big Macs and French fries, and over there, I feel it's a lot better quality food.
Oh yeah,
But
sure.
me and Sanjay, I think Barry, where the fries got so cold, we were heating up the fries in our hands over like a heater.
Yeah. It was like it was just and you look, I mean, we're doing our thing and we're nobody's really I mean, we're complaining to ourselves amongst ourselves, but we're not like mad to be there or anything
Yeah.
like that. But it was just that was really, really cold, man. That whole entire video shoot was like really uncomfortable.
What's the story? You guys, this is back in the day, but you guys, when you first went to Europe with like Disturbed, you guys
Oh.
pillows froze.
Yeah, well, that wasn't that tour. That was a different tour.
Oh,
So we yeah, the first well there was plenty cold the first time we went to Europe and toured with Disturbed was what it was. I won't get into the details of that. We're great friends with the Disturbed guys now, but back then there was some posturing going on from the headliner band, uh, and we were not given certain amenities that we should have been given. Anyway, but it was the first tour in Amaryllis. The first tour we did for the Amaryllis record, we went to Europe first, and it was what was claimed to be at the time the coldest night in Munich that they had on record or something. And the toilets froze on the bus. We couldn't use the toilets because the toilets were just a block of ice in there. The water was. Um, and I had one of these memory foam pillows, and I went into my bunk to go to bed, and I was like, I picked it up, and it was like a styrofoam cooler. It was so cold on the bus, like there was no. We were blowing vapor out of our mouths on the bus. In fact, I've got video that I could post it at some point of like me on the bus, like going, look at this. We're on the bus going down the highway, and it's like I'm just like blowing.
yeah.
It's
I
that
see
cold on the
dead
bus.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. How about this? It was we did it. It was warmer inside of the refrigerator. Like we'd open the refrigerator and it was warmer inside the fridge than it was
The
on the
refrigerator
bus.
light was giving off
Uh,
more heat.
but no, but the memory foam pillow was like it felt like a top of a styrofoam cooler. Like it was just like completely solid, like a completely solid block of foam. Like it had turned from this memory foam into like styrofoam. So yeah, I mean, touring is interesting, man. I mean, as far as that goes, like you really never know what you're going to encounter, what you're going to end up, you know. Do you ever find I don't ever really think about it, but now that I am thinking about it, do you ever feel yourself in sort of a always in some sort of heightened state of anxiety on tour? Like not like noticeable anxiety, like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, but you're always heightened to a certain extent because you're waiting on whatever's going to happen because you never know what you're walking into.
Well, some other things like I think with Shinedown, like you have people in position they're really good at what they do, so it kind of evens out or spreads out like that type of anxiety around everyone because they can kind of all step up and help each other.
Mm,
But for me, it's like you can only control so much. Like you can only you don't know when weather's going to come through, or there's going to be a situation like an active shooter, or a bomb threat, or stuff like that, where it's
right.
just like that's when you have to like figure out what's going on and solve the issue in real time. But like the actual, and the same side of that, when it comes to weather, that's always the most stressful thing because then you start running into
Mhm.
delays and curfew stuff, and then ticket issues, and you have to get the booking agent involved and management, and this whole there's such a process that goes into a weather delay or weather cancellation. Like, you look at like Rockville and stuff.
Yep.
That one year we were supposed to do Louder Than Life, and it got rained down and flooded. And I don't think people realize as fans that the amount of work that goes into those type of decisions is so insane
Mm,
that you just can't go out and just put out on the big screen. Oh, it's canceled, rain delay. Go to your like. There's so much thought processes that go between the
yeah.
insurances and that stuff. So that's for me is where I get kind of like, oh God, like
Well, that's why, and that's the other thing too, man, is that's why we always make such an effort to try to make it happen if it can possibly
correct,
happen. Like
correct,
when we did Rockville, we played
yeah.
what, 4 songs, 5 songs, and that
Five
was
so
it.
you play
But
half your set.
but like they were, they told us going on. It's like, oh, you're probably, there's no point. You're probably only gonna get 1 song, and we're like, we're gonna play until they tell us we can't play.
Yeah, I remember
And
when they
so
came to me and then Charlie were like, "Hey, Charlie's like, hey, John, you gotta pull them all the people up here. They're gonna lightning coming through." I'm like, Charlie, we have to get to enemies.
yeah,
I know at that point they're gonna get paid in full, and trust me, these weather like we got some time here. And you guys, as soon as you played that, I grabbed Brett and was like, "Hey guys, we gotta get off stage." And they was like the most
yeah,
like, just let the crowd get enemies for God's sakes. They've been treated the shitty weather all
yeah,
weekend. Let them have fun for a song.
yeah. Yeah, and the same thing with Blue Ridge, right? This last
Yeah.
time we did that, and
Oh,
look, that was,
I forgot
uh,
about that.
yeah, and it's like, okay, well, what can we do? Like, it was like, okay, the whole show's canceled, and the other thing was is we couldn't leave. Like, we were stuck there until 2 a.m.
Yeah,
or
driver
something.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, so none of the bands are leaving. I mean, us and Papa Roach and Asking Alexandria were all in the same compound, and then uh Oliver
Over
Anthony,
Anthony. Yep.
he came up, so he's hanging out. And I looked at Brent, I'm like, why don't we go play acoustic somewhere for these people? Like there's got to be a place somewhere in the let's find a couple of the original plan was to find a couple of places in the campground where we could we could just stop and play some songs for people because it sucks, man. It's like these people have spent the whole weekend, the weather's been shitty. The promoter that owned the festival at the time doesn't own it anymore, but so going forward it's under different management now, thank God. But uh has kind of, I guess everything's been a shit show. I don't know for a fact that that's what had happened, but I was told that everything had been a shit show, and now everything is canceled. And let's give these people something, because that's what I mean. It's like we want to do the thing. And I remember I walked down, Papa Roach's buses were parked down near the stage, and I walked down there and went on their bus and talked to them, and they were down. And Oliver Anthony had been hanging out with us, so he was down. And you know we only found one spot to play. It just kind of became what it became, and we had no PA or anything, and it's just all acoustic guitars and whatever. But it's like, hey man, these people, like that's the things, like as artists you want to play. Like I don't want to not play today. Like this is there's no that's why I'm here. And these people are here, they have paid good money, and they're here to hear a show. And if even if it's just something small like that, we want to play for them. So anytime that you're at a show, at least a Shinedown show, and something gets canceled, you have to understand that like we went through every single
Right.
avenue to try to make it happen. I mean, I remember when you had to fly me home because my back went out. I think we were in Wisconsin somewhere for that
Yeah.
show.
The Sylvie.
And yeah, and we're like, what are we gonna do? And so we figured it out that we record every show, which is awesome. Um, so our monitor engineer records every show, and our front of house guy records every show, just 2 separate recordings. But our monitor engineer has a track by track of every show that we play. So we figured it out because I was trying to figure out a way to play. I was like, well, I can't stand and I can't sit because I was just the only thing I could do is I could stand up, I could lean on a countertop in front of me. And that's all I could do. Uh, and I was like, well, maybe I could lay down on side of the stage and play. Like I was like trying to come up with something. And we finally came up with, look, you know, we'll just drop your bass track in from the night before, into the time code. We run what's called time code that runs all of the lights and pyro and video. It all runs on a system that's timed. And Barry and I play to a click track all night. So that stuff stays in order. So it's like, oh, yeah, just drop the bass in where it was supposed to be in the time code track stuff. And so that's what we did. And I didn't play, but I played. It was my recording from the night before. So we'll always try to find a way to make things happen.
Yeah.
Even if it's there was another show too where uh is that what happened, or did they play acoustic that night? There was another show. Oh, it was the COVID show is the one where they dropped
in
the tracks
Dallas.
in.
In
Yeah,
Dallas.
that's where they dropped the track in. That the Sylvie show
Yeah.
they played acoustic. That's right.
Yeah.
But like one way or another, we're going to try to find a way to make it happen. We hate canceling shows, and so you know it just sucks sometimes that the band gets a bad rap. Oh, show's canceled, and everybody thinks it's the band. Sometimes it is the band. It's never our band. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think
But
there's a lot of those situations where it's not the band. The band is probably number 4 on the totem pole from like making the decision. So it's like there's a lot at stake. You can't the little what if someone were to get struck by lightning or a flash flood, drowning, which happens, or stage collapse or high wind. So it's like people need to be cognizant of a promoter is not pull this money up and then pray that rain hits or shows get it's not that thing. So but yeah, to your point, that's like the anxiety for me, where like the stuff you can't control, and then if something does happen, how do you control it the best you can?
yep, interesting. Because I never really have to. I mean, we wait around in the dressing room and wait on somebody to tell us if something's canceled or if it's not going
But
to
so how
happen
to
or
that
what's going to
point,
happen.
how hard is it? There's been times where we've been like myself or Ed or Charlie, hey guys, they're pushing it 15 minutes, there's a set change issue, the power issue. When you're an hour out, mentally you start getting ready, physically you start doing your stuff. But
Yep.
when the people 15 minutes added on or an hour or hey, it's how does that affect you? Like, do you have to reset yourself, or can you just kind of just go out there
I
knowing you can't control this?
I used to be way more about the prep. Like probably up until attention record, I was always like I had a regimen that I went through, and I was very regimented about how I prepared for a show, mentally, physically, everything else. Uh, Now I feel like I could do anything before a show. Like sometimes I even have to remind myself, oh yeah, you forgot to do this, or you forgot to do this part of the warm up, or you forgot, because for me it's like it's become something where it's not a prep up to the show. It's literally like the second that the intro starts or that we were doing that thing where the screens opened up. As soon as the screens opened up, that was the switch that flipped. So I think maybe just as I've gotten older, the butterflies are a little less than they used to be, and that switch is a lot quicker for me now than it was before. I think I'm way better with dealing with stuff like that. Um,
Right.
the only thing is the voice, like if you warm your voice up and you're ready to go, and then all of a sudden you're not going, then you got to do the warm up again. That's that can be difficult for sure, but
Right.
the mental side of it is like um what will throw me off is if we think we're not going to go. Like it's like, we're
Yeah.
not going, okay, we're not getting undressed yet because it's like it's still a chance, but like it doesn't look likely, and then all of a sudden it's like we're going, and then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I kind of already like prepared myself to not that it wasn't going to happen because of weather or whatever. um yeah.
Did you I know I sent you the thing on Twitter, this and I actually did some more research on it, but like that video of that Arizona backyard with the cloaking device?
Yeah. I'd watched that previously. I didn't watch the one you sent actually because I'd seen it before, but
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
What?
So basically these scientists is broken down and experts in like photography and video, and they him basically think it's real footage.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting how that stuff started to come out now. And like the fact that that type of technology, I know we've talked about that hovering type of squid like hovercraft thing, and like clearly that technology exists, right? And so it's just like, how long have we had it? And was that a glitch where it wasn't supposed to be out seen, or just do you think some of this stuff kind of gets released just to kind of subliminally put these ideas in our heads where once this actually gets like mentioned or brought out to the light, we'll already be have the preconceived notion that, oh, we know cloaking capabilities existed or UFOs existed and stuff like that.
Man, I oscillate on this back and forth. It's like, is it, what is it? Is it the
Right.
government? Like, what is the psyop? Which way is it going? Like, because
Correct.
there's always going to be a psyop when it comes to stuff like this. Uh, are they trying to distract us from something else? Are they trying to ease us into some new technology? Is it a mistake? Like, what is it? The interesting thing about that footage that you sent, which I believe it was in Nevada, correct?
Yeah, Nevada. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it might
Yeah.
have been Las Vegas, right?
Las Vegas. Yes,
It's
yes. In
outside
the
of Las Vegas.
suburbs. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is ring camera footage of a flash of light that happens in this neighborhood, right? Almost like it's like a
A
continuous
big,
flash of light that
yeah.
something happened. These people said that they heard something crash in their backyard. Well, the backyard is more of like it's like a yard. It's literally like a machine yard with all this machinery and uh, earth movers and stuff like that. So it's not like
Yeah.
a traditional backyard. Um, and they claim that they went back there and saw like two entities back there. One that was kind of climbing on the machinery and stuff, like these tall alien looking things, right? Well, what's interesting is in the footage, there's footage of someone taking a video behind. Everyone's walking into the backyard to see
Yeah.
what's going on, and there's someone's taking video footage behind them. And where the fence is, so let's just say they're walking into a gate right here where my microphone is. Well, over here off to the side, there's a fence, like a privacy fence, 8 foot tall privacy fence. And above that fence, you see this shadowy thing, looks like a head above the fence, kind of move in and stop. And then everybody freaks out. They kind of see something, right? And they kind of freak out about it. What's interesting is they've had this footage analyzed. It almost looks like it's cloaked or something, right? But
Yeah.
it's shadowy and dark. It
Like
could be a,
Predator. That's the
but
movie
yeah,
Predator.
it could be a shadow. I mean, at the end of the day, but um
They react to it.
these analysts have tried to figure out like, well, where would the shadow be coming from? And they can't figure it out. Like they feel like there has to be something there. The other thing that's interesting is that in the slits in the fence where you can see through, that shadow moves past those too.
Yeah.
And so they're doing this kind of reconstruction of what this thing might have like looked like, kind of what, because it has a gait to it too. It's like
Yeah.
walking. Um, it's interesting. It's not like one of these conclusive things where it's like, oh, but so hypothetically though, let's just say that happened. I mean, I would think that for entities to, let's just say those are entities, right? Well, there's probably some mistake, right? I think the thinking is that like their craft had gotten screwed up or something had happened with it, right? Because it's all these flashes and noise
Yeah.
and like you can hear this noise on the ring camera videos too, which is a bizarre noise. It's not, you know, nothing that I've ever heard before. I don't really know how to describe it. You should look this up though, because it's all pretty interesting. There's this bizarre noise and flashes and so I guess the thinking is that maybe their vehicle like had trouble and they figured it out and they took off again or whatever. Um, man, it's what was the other thing? Did you send me the thing about the guy talking about the transporter technology and all that? Was that you that
Yes.
sent me that? Yeah.
Yeah. With the
So that's it.
ether. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That this I forget again, I'm horrible about this. This guy, he was a he held a position in government or CIA or something, and he had retired. And he was talking about how these craft fly so fast, and he's basically saying they actually, some of them actually dematerialize and rematerialize using quantum entanglement.
So
And
Paul Szek, a 30-year aerospace engineer veteran,
yeah,
started talking about this 10 years ago, where he discusses craft traveling upwards of 20,000 miles per hour, wormholes, and translocation via conversion of mass to energy and black to mass.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
bottle it energy and move it to another location and release it, you sound exactly like Mr. Spock. You said you create a tear in the time domain of local space.
yeah.
Quantum
So
effects. Yeah.
so when I watched that, yeah, he was talking about quantum entanglement, and
Yeah.
if anyone who doesn't know what quantum entanglement is, it's part of quantum physics, quantum theory, and I believe they've proven quantum entanglement now. Um, but basically, quantum entanglement is that two particles, two electrons are forever linked to each other. And you can have one that is in our current space time around us here. There could be another one that is, you know, doesn't matter how far away it is. It could be on the other side of the universe. It could be galaxies away, billions of galaxies away. There's and there are these two particles that are coupled together, and whatever happens to one happens to the other simultaneously. Um, and so his point is that I think what he was saying is that we have the technology and we figured out quantum entanglement to the point where you can dematerialize the structure here and have it rematerialize wherever that entangled place is. And so it's just instantaneous transport from one place to another. Um, I find this stuff fascinating. Problem is you don't know who to believe. You don't know who is just trying to distract from something, else. Who, that guy could be, he could be employed by our government to say all sorts of, you know, uh to say all sorts of things to make people like you and I who have a tendency to get into this stuff believe that something is what it is when that's not at all what it is, to distract from this real thing that is less impressive that's going on over here, but they want to distract you from it, right?
Which you mentioned before, like the idea of like what the psyop is. And the other day, we were Memorial Day, a bunch of us friends, obviously we were drinking, and we were talking about like the rollout of the pandemic and how, as truth comes to light, it a lot of people made some really terrible decisions, right?
Oh yeah.
And now, but like our discussion led to the idea of, well, now that everyone's so anti-trusting the WHO and CDC and saying, screw you, we're not doing anything again, what if they actually release a real biological thing that's actually not just a flu, but that can kill you, just wipe you out? And then because we're predetermined now to say, screw all these people telling us this is a thing, it's just a flu. What if the actual pandemic is that?
Oh,
But
you
then
mean
we're
so? I mean, do you think you talking about them intentionally doing that? Like, or
Yes.
yeah, the
Now
fact that
where
they
it's like
know.
now the mindset, the hive mind for us is, before it was, in order to wipe out, I think, enough people, they had to mass create this idea that the flu is COVID, whatever it was. And I'm not taking away from the fact that I know people that died. We all know people that
Right.
died and suffer from this. They're still suffering from it. But what if now there's information's leaked out or comes to light that it was mishandled, that now the idea that all these people are going to start talking, saying, no, screw that, we're not listening to you guys ever again. Now they're going to release the real pandemic, which will wipe everyone out because we're so ingrained the exact opposite to, we're not taking any medication, we're not doing any shots, any of this stuff.
I mean, that's
It,
possible. I mean, look, anything, look, evil is evil, man, and anything's possible. I mean, that's one thing that if we didn't, if you weren't aware of people having ill intent and evil intentions for economic gain, etc., before, now it is blatantly obvious. It's in your face that, like, you know, the way that a vaccine that we now know is it's been, if anyone wants to talk about the science, quote unquote, the science now, peer reviewed papers saying that, yeah, these vaccines are causing cancer and you know blood clots and everything else, and they knew this was going to happen. I mean, there's if you feel like looking for it, there are emails that circulated between, and I don't remember whether it was AstraZeneca or Pfizer or Johnson and Johnson, but these executives having email conversations where they're saying things like, uh, you know, yes, everything's ready to roll out, blah blah blah. but we have to be careful that no one finds out about the cancer.
Right.
It's like, so you have people who are genuinely knowingly causing harm to people for financial gain. Um, that being said, I have a hard time with this whole theory of like people that there is a, we've talked before about, the fact that people have um and I forget where it was because we talked about it on a previous one, and now I don't remember where I got the information, where I heard someone talking about this, but the fact that, oh, we were talking about the Bledsoe family and the orbs
Yes.
and all that stuff, and how these entities that were spiritual entities that have been communing with Chris Bledsoe have told him that there's a dark force at the top of humanity. So I do believe that, I mean, look, it's kind of hard to look at society and quote unquote leadership and not think that there's something demonic evil kind of at the in these people's sphere and in their heads and their minds. Um, but when it comes to, if I look at it from an uh, evil person's mindset, meaning I want financial gain, I want to I want to be powerful. If I think about it, you don't gain anything by killing a bunch of people off,
You need
like
those people on
purposely
paper.
killing people off. Like,
Correct.
where are you going to get your money?
Correct.
Like, again, we've talked before about how, the taxation that goes on with Americans is
Theft.
outrageous,
Yeah.
outrageous taxation. You're taxed when you earn the money, you're taxed when you buy something with the money, you're taxed when you die, you're taxed when you, at every step of the way, you're taxed. Your money is taxed and taxed and taxed. Well, they need people to tax people, you know? And so this thing of like, oh, we're going to try to set up some sort of pandemic to kill off a bunch of the world and a bunch of people. And that just doesn't really ring with me, you know? Enslave, yes. That's fine. If you want to enslave, we basically are at this point. Like the entire Western world is basically enslaved and we've talked about it this way too, as money batteries for the Western, sort of NATO war machine thing. Whether it becomes a one world government or not, that's where we're headed. That makes sense to me. We need to make sure we keep these people to where they can't, we're going to inflate money, which is basically just another tax. We're going to make it to where you never get ahead. You can never really truly get on top. But in trying to truly get on top, that's the carrot, right? They dangle in front of you
Yeah.
is this carrot of like, oh, it's the American dream or the Western dream. You can become anything you want. And so you always feel like you're just always striving towards something that you'll never really reach. And that keeps money in the pipeline for them to do what they want to do. So if they were to kill off their batteries, you know, I mean, I mean, I guess you can think about it this way. If maybe the inflation's gotten so out of hand and debt's gotten
Yeah.
so out of hand that if you did kill off a third of the population, all of a sudden you know, maybe that solves that
Yeah.
problem. But that's way too tinfoil hat for me.
Yeah. I love the
Uh,
idea though of like the good versus evil where it's like that equal balance. Like the Jedi, right? Like if one was a Jedi versus Sith, like you
yeah.
have to have equal balance of power. But it always seems like the negative and the negative stuff, whatever this dark cloud above society, it always seems like it's almost protected.
More
Like,
pervasive.
yeah, where it's just like, why can't the good side have a voice? Because I mean, we know people in the media. I'm not saying every media person's just a corrupt whatever, but very rarely do you see the amplification of the good news or like the good aspect of what we're doing as humans amplified to the levels where negative stuff is.
Well, I think that the negative and evil is more pervasive because when you are when and look, I mean, it is like that. I saw someone say something the other day that kind of really made me think. It's like we've kind of been taught. I'm not saying I necessarily believe this, but I've really been thinking about it a lot, which is you're taught that most of the world is good and there's just these few bad, people that have this power or whatever, and they're steering this evil throughout the world. But they're like, what if it's the opposite? What if most of the world is evil and there are just these few pieces of good out there that are kind of keeping everything in check? And that's how it feels most of the time. It feels like everywhere I look, it's most people, it seems like, and I'm maybe this is very cynical, but since I heard that, I've been kind of watching and looking. And I'm not saying I've arrived at this place, but I look around and it's like, yeah, man, most people are kind of assholes. But then you find a few people here and there that aren't assholes.
Or you'll see you
And
hear a story or see something about somebody doing good or a good group of people, and then everyone attacks them, and like finds out the worst part about these people. It's like we're not the good. The concept of like good and pure is like it's just always under attack. It feels like
yeah.
it's like
Well,
why can't the good ever attack back? Or
here's the
how do you
thing.
do it?
This is where I forgot I was heading this direction a minute ago. I think the reason for that is that for evil, when someone's evil or someone has evil intent, it's win at all costs. Like
Correct.
there is no compass. There is no moral compass. It is, what do I have to do to get the most money? What do I have to do to win at life? It's like he who dies with the most toys wins, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, what do I have to do to achieve that? Well, I don't care what I have to do. I'll kill people. I'll make people sick. I will steal from people. I will do whatever I have to do to win. And when you have a moral compass, which is how I live my life, and I can't imagine trying, harming someone else to get to advance anything I'm doing, right? Well, that's not win at all costs. That is carefully pick my way through things as to not harm anyone while at the same time trying to evolve and do good. And so in our world now, man, it's like when evil is just moving at a astronomically fast pace now because of social media. You can push bad ideas. You can push bad concepts. You know, the hustle culture has gotten really toxic, where it's like, hustle, 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 just work, work, work. Who gives a fuck? Make money, make money, make money, make money. And it's like that becomes what kids see and hear from the beginning, and from the time that they pick up a device. Some kids 4 years old, they've got a 3 years old, they've got an iPad in front of their face, and um, pornography that is just we all know how readily available that is.
Yeah.
And so that's win at all costs. Whereas if you're trying to do good, it moves at more of a snail's pace. It's like patient, and what I say, love is patient, kind, all
Yeah.
these things, right? It's at the end of the day, I'd like to think that those concepts win, but it never seems like they do.
Do you
They're
think
always
it's tougher or is it harder to do good things as opposed to easier to do bad things?
oh, it's way easier to do bad things. Again, all costs.
Which is crazy, right? Like
There,
to make the wrong decision takes less effort. And I think we're such a lazy society.
well, it's back to that what we've talked about before about um, how building something takes a long time. Like building a society, building a culture takes a long time and a lot of nuance and a lot of putting things together and pieces in place. And but it only takes 6 months to tear it all down if you want,
Right.
and that's kind of what we've seen happening, right? It's sort of the deterioration of civilized society, um, because it's super easy and quick, and then there's no. The interesting thing is that the people who start tearing down, most of the time, people who start tearing down society. Well, take this back. The people at the top who benefit from the tearing down of society, they have their ill intentions, but the people who they're not doing it. They're making suggestions to people under them, to the
Right.
underlings. And the underlings are the ones that are out in the streets rioting and protesting, and not that protest is bad. Protest can be good. I'm just talking about in this case, when I see, it's down with Western civilization, down with all this stuff. And it's like, they're preying on people's feelings of like, they're finding the people who've had hard luck or haven't tried, haven't worked, and they're going, see, you know, uh, everything's a lie. You really can't succeed. And they drive these ideas into people's heads. And then in turn, you know, they start to sort of drag society down. Well, that's super easy to do, super easy to disassemble it. But how do you build it back up? No one ever thinks about that. It's like, okay, the dog's going to catch the car here in a minute. You're going to tear the entire system apart, and there's going to be no system. And it's so it's actually so rich to me to watch these, especially kids, man. It's usually kids. It's usually young people uh, who are all about tearing down society while they drink their lattes and and post on TikTok on their $1,000 cell phone and do all and they've got Wi-Fi everywhere they go. What they don't realize is once they tear the system down, those things won't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They don't understand that, like, okay, they'll wake up one day and they would have torn down the system, and they're going to go, now what? I tore the system down. It's supposed to be better. And it never is. It's never better. Um, and I'm not saying that the systems that are in place are fair and just and right all the time either. You know, the two great examples are Cuba and Iran, right?
Yeah.
They had these kings in place, the Shah of Iran, um, and he was sort of a dictator, but he was driving a civilized society forward. And you know, the Ayatollahs came in and they convinced everyone that this Shah was bad and they needed to be overthrown. And so I forget how long, it wasn't a long time. It was months. They tore
Yeah.
down the entire thing and overthrew the Shah. And now Iran is a shithole. I love not talking about the people of Iran. I'm just saying
No,
that,
the
like, it's a
infrastructure, the
it's a it's a
leadership.
it's a it's a if it's you should look at before and after picture, before communism and after communism pictures of Cuba, what Cuba was prior to Castro and Che Guevara and these people that came in and overthrew the government. And yeah, you look around, you're like, okay, we've torn down the system. Now what? Well, now you're going to live in a shitty system for the rest of your life, because there's no way to rebuild something that fast in its place. And look, I mean, America with its nation building that we so ignorantly, I
Yeah.
mean, it's probably ignorant like sly like a fox, like ignorant like a fox, right? Where it's like we try to install democratic governments in places overnight and expect it to work. Well, that's the same thing. It's like it's not going to work. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go all the time.
Right.
People are moving targets. There is no, it takes a long time to build a government robust enough to withstand attacks from all sides, within, from outside, from everywhere. And look, the American experiment, we're 250 years into it, right? Or so. And
They say.
yeah, and we're having trouble with it, right? But uh so you can't expect just to just wave a magic wand and install a government or whatever and it's going to work. It's probably
Yeah.
not going to work. It has to happen organically. And look, as I say that, I'm thinking, well, you know the stuff with the Ayatollahs in Iran happened organically, I guess, but they the people didn't get what they were sold that they were going to get. Yeah, they wanted something better. They were told, you're always told, these things always take place because you're told that the people in power don't have your best interest in mind, and we need to overthrow the system, not overthrow the people, overthrow the system, right? The system is the problem. And you know, sometimes more times than not, it's the people that are the problem, not the system. That's what we have here in the United States now. That's what we have in the UK now. It's like the people are the problem. The people that are put in place are there for themselves and not for the people they're supposed to represent. And it's not the system. It's not the system's fault. So when you tear down an entire system, you have no way to, okay, what are you going to put in its place? It's torn down now. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And usually what gets put in his place is not something great.
I remember like growing up as a kid, I was able to be a kid. I was never indoctrined to be like a political foil or just be aligned with something. It's like, and off the record, going to like Iran or Israel with my prior life and seeing kids playing hopscotch or painting or having a good time or families doing their thing, knowing when you look at them, knowing, man, if they had a fraction of what I had, they would not be have the anger and hate attach them as they get older and turned into weapons or political like just political like whatever
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
because they're living in a society that is nurturing these kids and families to hate and think the way they are. It's like I can only imagine growing up in that society as a kid. Thank God I grew up in the States because I'd be like
Yeah.
so grateful to that.
But even if you grew up in the States, man, it's and this is what gets weaponized and used is uh look, if you it's very rare that you see someone who has accomplished something blaming someone else for their problems, right?
Yeah.
You know. Uh but if you look at so if you go to, you know, the the poor white trash part of the South where I live, they blame all their problems on minorities, right? That's where you get your like your white racism and everything that comes in. It's like, well, everything's an immigrant's fault or everything's a black person's fault. But you get the same thing if you go to a poor black neighborhood. Everything's white man's fault,
Yeah.
you know. It's and that gets used by powerful people to drive dissent and to uh to further agendas and to get elections and win votes and that sort of thing. Uh, but it's I'm not saying it's this isn't a blanket thing, but it's more rare to have. Now, I'm not saying that affluent people who have been educated in all races and everything don't have uh um uh aren't geared toward helping underprivileged people and pointing to things that are unfair and unjust. That's not my point. But look, Dave Chappelle's a perfect example. He had great parents. He grew up, his parents
Yeah.
were professors and he grew up in an educated household and he was given, he grew up in suburbia and he didn't grow up in the projects, right? And, he has uh he still has societal issues with society and the way that black people are viewed in society, I guess, for him, the way that he sees the world. But he's not out blaming people for his problems, whatever
Correct.
that is. Uh, and you know, Dino, my buddy Dino is another one.
Yep.
Black man, uh, grew up in the suburbs, great parents. You know, he is all about helping his community. This is what I mean about Chappelle. Like, he wants to. They're all about help,
Yeah.
but they're not pointing fingers and blaming white people for their problems or blaming Mexicans for their problems or blaming whatever.
Yeah.
But when you're poor and you're down and out and you have nothing else, you want to find a reason why you're where you are. And what you're never told by leadership and it's not fair. Life isn't fair, by the way. I'm not saying that, like, I'm not saying all you got to do is put on your, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get to work, because when you're in those places, that doesn't look like a reality. It is a reality. Like, you can work your way out of these things and you can change your attitude and get yourself out. But it is so ridiculously impossible, or seems so ridiculously impossible at that point, that you have to be shown. No one ever shows anyone that. They never show them how to do it. It's they're just told, look how poor you are. Look at how down you are. Look how downtrodden you are. And it's this person's fault over here that you're like that. And it keeps people at each other and angry.
Right.
Um, and I'm not the only parallel that I have for that, the only way I can paint it is the depression, right? It's like um when I am at my in well, most of the time right? Things seem impossible for me to accomplish
Yep.
and to get myself out of this thing. I know, even though I know that it's possible, even though I have all the resources around me to do certain things, pretty much anything I want to do, I have resources, right? But I'm in a mental place. Granted, it's an illness, but I'm in a mental place where nothing seems possible a lot of the time. And so that's the only thing that I have. And I'm not saying that maybe it's apples to oranges, but I don't think it is, because people who are financially downtrodden feel like nothing's possible. You
Right.
know, nothing's possible to get them out of that. Um, and so, you know, even that, I guess I'm just saying that. So I do have an understanding of not the same understanding, but I have an understanding of thinking that things are impossible. Um, and it's difficult, man. It is really difficult to pull yourself out of that headspace. Um, but you look at someone like Kevin Hart, that's another great, you know, or Ben Carson we keep talking about
Yes.
celebrities or athletes, but like someone like Ben Carson who became a neurosurgeon, you
Yeah.
know, he was not in an affluent family. He lived in a bad neighborhood, and he had parents and people around him that could convince him to elevate himself. Uh, and I don't know much about his parents. I don't know what his parents uh, experience was that gave them the ability to articulate that to him, that you can rise above your circumstance. Um, I have a neighbor across the street. This is actually a pretty good analog too for where I live. I have two neighbors across the street, next door neighbors, and uh, one of the families had five kids in the family, and these are both African American families. The other family next door had three kids in the family. They grew up next door to each other on the same street, same financial circumstance. The five kids in the one family all became doctors, engineers, was a lawyer. They all elevated out of the circumstance that they were in. The family on the other side, uh, two of the family members still sling dope. That's what they do.
Right.
You know, they sling dope out of the front yard, and you know they're in their 40s. Um, I know just from knowing those two family situations that the family that has the five kids that went on to you know to great careers and whatnot, the family structure was such that they were told that they could accomplish anything. And they also were brought up in a very faith-filled household, you know, they all went to church, they all, you know, and the other side um, didn't have that type of environment, you know. So I don't know how do we get off on this subject?
I don't know. I'm into it
I
though.
don't want people to think I'm being preachy about oh just like again, man, it's I hear people say this a lot, especially people on the right have a tendency to go, "Oh, you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get to work." And it's that hustle culture thing again a little bit, but societal hustle culture where yes, it is that. It is just pull yourself up by your bootstraps to get to work. And if you do that, you can accomplish anything. But they always fail to put themselves, they always fail in the empathy department where you have to put yourself in the situation, like really try to put yourself in the situation of someone like that, and even then you're not going to get the whole picture. So it's uh imagine being a kid I've given this example before, and I don't know if I've given it on here or not, but imagine being a kid in the south side of Chicago where you're 12 years old, you're extorted into a gang, you have no choice, you're told that if you don't join the gang they're going to kill your family, you're
Yeah.
12 years old, if you don't sling this dope on the corner, here's a gun, here's dope, go make me some money. And that's your reality from the time that you're not even a teenager yet. And this is what you're growing up into. Now just tell that kid to pull himself up by his bootstraps and he can be a doctor or a lawyer or something. You know,
Yeah. It's
it's
just
just
not.
it's not it that is going to seem like the most absurd, impossible thing. And it's also going to probably make him really pissed off to hear someone say that. Like, what do you mean pull myself up by my bootstraps and I can just, you know, the thing is we have the knowledge, you and I do, and we had the upbringing to be told from a young age that we could be anything we want to be. And we were put in an environment where it seemed possible. And and I do try to do like the thought experiment of like putting myself in that situation of like, okay, I live in hell and I have no one to look to convince me or I have no one to teach me that the people people who should be teaching me are themselves in trouble, you know, and I have nothing to look to. And the people that I have that I look up to, my mentors are gang leaders or drug dealers, and because they have money, and it looks like that's the way out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and or I can look at see an athlete or something, right? But even with that, man, how many of these kids that have athletic talent or musical talent or are ever going to see that talent develop in that environment? You know,
Well, that's what
very
I
rarely.
was thinking about this the other day. When you look at
And
like,
by the way, this also applies to like Appalachia, like white populations of Appalachia. This isn't just a black and Hispanic problem or whatever. It's you know, you go to any poor part of America, like really poor part of America, and you got the same problem. Like some kid that's living in a cabin in West Virginia and white kid that you know, it, he's probably he's you know, I guess the best he can expect for himself is to go work in a coal mine somewhere probably,
right.
and you know there is no other way up and out. Um, so it's really like sometimes the things we perceive as racial problems, I'd say a lot of the times the things we perceive as racial problems are actually economic problems. Yeah, because like it's you know, you're always going to blame for some reason they're never blaming the system, right? They're never blaming the people who actually
Correct.
put them in that place. They're blaming they've been told that you know in white some parts of the white South and North too, by the way. If you've been to Detroit, you know, you know, you're told that your problem is the minorities, your problem is
Right.
the black people, your problem is the Hispanics. And if you're black, you're told your problem is the white people, you know, and
They're in the
but
same boat.
yeah, but it's economic, I think,
Yeah.
not as it's an economic problem, not a racial problem.
That's why when I think of like sponsorships, like brands like Nike, Reebok, I'm just thinking of athletic stuff, but they always go to the best athlete. And on paper, it makes sense because whatever. But the kid that's running from the coal mine or running from the gangs that might not ever be a Division I athlete or go to the Olympics, and like those are the people. If I was a brand, then I would go to those people who are running or doing something for a purpose without even looking at the athletic side of it, but like what they're running from and what they're representing. Like it's just the idea of sponsorships tied to these people and things where it's just super frustrating. Because to your point, that kid that's South Side Chicago that but he's not doesn't have the basketball talent to be the next Michael Jordan. But you know what? He's shooting hoops with his friends to stay out of the crime and to get away from that part of town and to stay focused on school. It's like those are the people where if I look at a brand to be like, that's what I want representing who I am, not
Mm.
some corporate. I don't know. It's just the whole thing's super frustrating to me.
Well, you know, again, man, it's like they're in the shoe selling business, right?
And
Any
I
of these,
get it.
a lot of these athletic companies are, you know, and it's like, uh, you know, it's so who's going to be the? I mean, I see what you mean. I mean, it does like it does. You
Like,
wish you
how
could
come
find.
Ben Carson doesn't have a shoe? Like, if you're looking at,
No, I get it, man, but he
like,
probably he probably does have shoes, man. They probably look like you know they're the dress shoes, and
yeah, but like,
that's just not
but
cool.
to my point, there's people out there that have really great stories that are like in the limelight, like a Ben Carson, like I don't know, like I'm trying to think of these other athletes, veterans that became athletes, vice versa, or left a sport to become a cop or EMS,
Yep.
whatever. Those type of people, or it's or like so I saw a story. The original drummer for Blink-182 became a paramedic, EMS firefighter. Like just that's what makes him happy. But so why don't we honor people like that with shoes and cool things? Like I don't know. Like I would wear a Ben Carson Air Force One.
Well, maybe you and I need to get on that. Maybe we
Because
need to start.
he's got
Maybe
such a great story of perseverance that
he
resonates
does.
closer to human beings than Michael Jordan does to human beings.
Right. No, I know. Yeah, but
But I also get the side of that. I get why
all right.
I'm
Well,
not.
so 12-year-old John, who was the like when you were I think 12 is a very that to me is like a really that's a
That
really influential
that would
age.
have been
Right?
1997 for me.
Okay. So in 1997, like who did you look
Ugh.
up to at that point? Like what was the thing that made A, what were you doing? What made you tick? What were you into? And who are the people that you looked at and went, that person makes me, makes me
Okay,
feel that person makes me feel alive, or I want to aspire to be that person. Like,
yeah. I mean, I was watching stuff like He-Man, early wrestling, and like the first time I watched RoboCop was in '96, and Predator was in '96. So like questionable parenting there. But I felt that type of stuff made me like enjoy like kind of what I do, like what I love now, like the movies and action stuff and like cops and robbers, good for the ideas of good versus evil and stuff. And so, but like from a if like, the most cliched answer, like my parents or my grandfather that came off the boat, or like
but I'd be
the
like,
hard work.
you didn't have any. There were no pop culture icons that you
I
looked up
mean,
to.
I guess at that time, He Man, I guess was. I mean, he's probably bigger now, but that idea of what He Man was, uh, I don't remember. The only music I was listening to was stuff in my dad's car, which would be like ZZ Top or uh, Dion, the Belmonts, that type of stuff. Movie wise, pop culture wise, athlete wise, I would say in '96 would have been Michael Johnson, the runner
Yeah,
that had the gold shoes. That was the first time I watched an athlete be large. He was my generation's Usain Bolt,
right.
fastest man in the world, and how he held himself accountable and how he still is today. It's like his story was amazing. So
Yeah.
that'd probably be. I mean, of course, Michael Jordan, that type of stuff, but like that was the first athlete where I was like, oh my god, this guy's got gold shoes.
Hmm.
Like this guy is a superhero. Like I've never seen gold shoes before, and this is the only guy in the world can have them because if you're only way to have gold shoes is if you're the fastest person in the world, and this guy was.
All right. So thought experiment. How do we take uh how would you market if you had a company? Let's just say, and I don't know what it would be. I don't know what the company would be. I don't know what our product would be. But let's just say we had a company and we wanted to push thinkers and doctors
Yeah,
and these types of people to the forefront, the same way that
yeah,
Michael Johnson was pushed to the forefront, or
right.
Troy Aikman, or
Yeah, Emmett Smith, the whole generation, whoever it was.
yeah, uh, or yeah. So what would that look like? So like, let's just say that you and I had a company, and I don't know what we're selling. I don't know what our product is,
Like, how are
but
we marketing Marcus Aurelius?
right, that's my thing. It's like okay, we want to we're gonna sign Jordan Peterson. Um, help me out here. We're gonna sign Jordan Peterson, Dave Chappelle. Give me a good female thinker. Um,
Uh,
uh, uh, w- this is terrible. I can't think of any. Nothing's coming to mind right now. Uh, well, let's just keep going. Ben Carson. Um, how do you? So what does that look like? How do you market that? How do you market role models, like actual role models, not sports role models? How do you market David Goggins, uh,
yep.
how, Joe Rogan? How do you market uh, these
Free
people?
thinkers, free thinkers.
Yeah, how do you market these people to a younger generation in a
Well,
way
I think it,
that they're going to feel the same way about these people that they would feel about LeBron?
yeah. Well, I think the first step would be to not, I think a lot when you look at Pearson or Rogan or go, like some of these people, they're not telling you how to think. They're not telling you what party to vote for. They're very vocal about their beliefs, but they're also listening to other people's sides of things. And
Yeah.
I think the problem is athletes today, or these type of people, they get okay. So I look at Jordan Peterson, love him or hate him. I love him. I love the way he thinks. I love how open he is about religion and faith and dealing with his alcoholism and drug addiction and all this stuff he deals with. But I don't look at him for the political advice. I think they get these type of free thinkers are you're told if you're a person that's come across his first video, you're told before you already have a preconceived notion in your head that this guy is conservative or that Joe Rogan doesn't think COVID was real, or you have these ideas where people are already on your head telling you you can't look at these people for advice, or so it's kind of like I don't know how to separate these free thinkers from the political world because on their own merits, I mean, I
Well,
think
but the thing is, I think everybody that I just mentioned, except maybe Ben Carson, he is a pretty conservative dude.
yeah,
But I think that I think I mentioned Rogan, Peterson, Goggins, right?
yeah,
None of them are conservative people.
no,
The thing is they are being forced over to a more
correct,
conservative side because of all of the the dystopian sort of control that is coming from the left side. But
yeah,
if that dystopian control was coming from the right side, they'd be over here on the left side. That's
right,
what happens when you're a centrist. You can't if whatever ridiculous thing one side is doing, you have to kind of
yeah.
distance yourself from that one way or the other. Um, so I guess so you're saying that it would be difficult to market these people because they by society, sorry,
Like
mainstream society and media has attached them to something
correct.
that they're
Kind
not
of,
even
kind of to what you're saying.
that they're not attached to.
Correct.
So, all
But like,
right, well, okay, well, let's just take that. Let's put that to the side for a second. I'm just talking personalities and interest here. LeBron is interesting because LeBron does superhuman things on the basketball court, right?
yeah, it
And
has for a long time.
Jordan did superhuman things. So you're watching people achieve something at a high level in
I
sports
think we put too
or
much
music.
attachment.
Let's talk about like Lil Wayne or Drake or Kendrick or whoever, right? Or Dave Grohl or whatever. Like, these people are
'Cause I think in sports, music, sports, you have trophies, you have championships, music, you have singles and plaques and awards. It's like that type of stuff has always had a. It's easier to market that I think because you can have a tangible picture of your star holding whatever it is they win. Where if you're a free thinker, you go back to like Plato, Marcus Aurelius, uh,
Seneca.
Seneca, all these
Yeah.
guys, the Art of War guy, Sing Sung.
Yep.
Uh, they don't. They free thinkers never got awards. Now their reward is that we're talking about Marcus Aurelius in 2024, correct? I mean, and I
Yeah.
think those people, and even Rogan and Pearson and these type of free thinkers now, generations go by, their reward will be people still talking about their thoughts, right?
Right.
But
Well, we can hope, as long
I
as it
would
isn't
I would think.
suppressed.
I mean, you might not agree with everything Marcus really
Well,
says, but
how about
it
this?
resonates.
I mean, that is Marx, right? I mean, like, I don't agree with and I don't think Karl Marx was an evil person. I think
No,
he had shitty ideas, right?
yeah,
But we're still talking about his shitty ideas.
correct. Like, how do you
Uh,
like those guys? Like outside of books and statues, I don't think. But then now we have to decide like what are we trying to gain for the marketing of these people? Like, what
well,
more do they
but
need?
how do you market them? We still haven't gotten to that point yet. It's like, how do you market intellectual greatness? Like, because
You 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 put them
this whole thought experiment started about like shoes
you
for
put them in textbooks. You start educating kids at a young age about
No, but
the.
textbooks aren't cool. Like, again, man, it's like I think my thing is this is like LeBron isn't cool because he's in a textbook. LeBron is cool because he's on TV and he's playing 85 games a year. Or I don't know how many he's actually playing now, but you know he's going to be broadcast and held up as this. Like, how do we change the perception of
Okay, so why couldn't we do an
and by the way,
ad?
dude, I'll even throw like 'cause I know we look, we're talking a lot. We've mentioned a lot of people who are leaning more right, but have even like a Cornell West
Yeah,
or you know, these highly intellectual people on all sides.
Yeah.
Sam Harris,
Yeah.
Weinstein, you
Yeah.
know, these people who are just all over the place, but they're highly intellectual. These are the people we should be listening to. Not our society is so dumbed down,
Yeah.
right? And so how do we make how what would it look like? I mean, this is the thing. I'm not saying I have the
Okay, so
answers.
you look at these Gatorade ads, or remember the old. That's why I love when they did the got milk ads.
We'd have to start marketing them
Right. So
somehow.
remember when the old got milk ads? It was everyone. There was
Yep.
farmers, cowboys,
Athletes,
athletes,
actors. Yeah.
musicians, actors,
Yep.
military people,
Yep.
firefighter. It was everyone, and I thought that was the most genius thing until one side of told everyone that farmers are pieces of shit and that milk is bad for you. So
Right.
that went away, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And your bones aren't whatever. Uh, so that type of we look at these Gatorade ads, or I see these Gatorade ads or Mountain Dew or Pepsi, and I'm like, oh, there's LeBron, there's there, but these intellectual minds, they drink Gatorade too.
Yeah.
It's like you when you work your mind, these people that think as well as they do, and I don't even know if that makes sense, but I would think that they gotta hydrate too, right? Like, what do you work your muscles in sports? Why can't you celebrate working your mind?
Yeah.
Where
No,
there's still a physicality to it.
so I think that look, I think that the way to start solving this, wouldn't it be excellent if there was a league, like we'd have to form a
Oh
league.
yeah, for sure.
We'd have to form like a debate league or something that was fun to watch, right? I don't know how you make that fun to watch, but you know, you just like, can you imagine like the societal shift that would happen if like if 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 you could figure out a way to make uh debate exciting to watch, you
Yeah,
know? And like,
but because I watched like Death Poetry Jam and like the
well, like
I
yeah,
love that
that's
stuff.
that's a great, you know,
Incredible, incredible.
rap battles is another one.
Yes,
Like that's another thing too,
intellectual
man. Yeah.
battling in real time with like no
Yeah.
preparation. It's like when you call a timeout in basketball, you have 30 seconds, design a play that on paper would work great. Now you have to worry about the defenders and like stuff happening, the dynamics of the ball being wet, slippery, whatever. You look at the Def Jam, like the beat battles, like that's real. You have minimal time to plan an attack on your opponent and then get one back and then rebuttal. So it's just like why are that type of stuff? I'm enthralled by that just as much as I am watching a championship game.
So what if we had a uh
Like old school with
we
like
just
Will Ferrell going against James Carville.
we yeah, we designed some sort of league of like league of thinkers, right?
Yeah,
And and the room is split down the middle. You got the home team and the away team and their supporters. So like you're either a Peterson fan or a Cornell West fan, or you're a, you know, and you can be fans of multiple ones, but I'm saying you kind of have your place where you live. And uh you wouldn't it be fascinating to see like people that you wouldn't normally expect to debate against each other, debating against each other, like a Rogan
correct.
against a Peterson, or,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like your
you know,
team is made up of everyone walk of
and
life. You're
right.
drafted.
And so, and then the thing is just in like just in like in sports, you know, you can prepare for the game, but you don't know what the game is going to be,
You don't know
right?
what your opponent's doing yet.
So not even that. Like you get in there and you have a moderator, like a referee, right? And they just drop on them in the moment. We're debating this subject. It's a neutral subject. It can't be something that sways toward one person or another. It's like you just have to like, we're going to debate this thing. And it also has to be fair to where it's like most people are going to have a knowledge of it. And then in real time, you start this battle between the two, and you give each person 5 minutes or whatever it is back and forth. And I would find that exciting. I don't think you're going to be able to get 12-year-olds to find that exciting, but maybe. But anyway, he's a younger cat, man. He's like in his 20s. And and you know, he's someone that I think kids
It's
could like.
Coleman Hughes.
Coleman Hughes. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Uh,
the thing of the view was about he talked about color blindness and like how it
yeah,
should be
right.
perceived.
But
Yeah,
Coleman Hughes isn't right or left. He's very much down the middle, right?
correct.
But just a common sense thinker and a young cat, you know.
Super young.
And I could see someone like him, like he'd be like the LeBron of this thing, you know.
Oh fuck
Uh,
yeah.
but if you could just get it to where it's like the thing is kids have to see results. That's the other thing.
A
Like
winner and a loser.
if well, no. I mean like financial results. They have to see like, oh, if I do this thing, I'm going to get pulled up and out of my circumstance, right? They see that in basketball. They see that with rap. They see that with country music. They see it with what I do. It's like, oh, all my problems will be solved if I do this because then I'll have money. By the way, that's not true. Uh, but but you'd have to show something like that. It's like, okay, we have this league, and by the way, these people are winning cash. Like they're winning, they're signed to
Yeah,
contracts.
yeah.
Like
They
we're
got
signing them to
jerseys.
contracts.
Yeah.
We're signing them to contracts, and then there's merchandise and everything else. And kids start seeing that, like, oh, like there's hope beyond. Like they have to, especially if you're in a downtrodden place, man, you want to see that financial hope, and that's the other thing. It's not just the sports, it's not just the excitement. It's like, no, this is exciting and these dudes are getting paid.
Yeah.
So if we were going to market thinkers like athletes, they would have to get paid like athletes. And this goes back to something that I think is can you imagine how different our entire system would be if uh if our teachers got paid like doctors and the vetting system for hiring teachers was as stringent as it is for
Oh,
doctors,
the testing
you know,
alone would chase off all the shitty ones.
right? I mean, that's just something small we could do as society that would change everything. You imagine people like aspiring to be a teacher because,
Well, you look
you
at these
know,
college athletes who are getting starting to get paid now in video games and jerseys. It's like I get it, but there's a kid at that same school that's going to find the cure for cancer or has
yeah,
is actively working on case studies that could stop influenza or stop Alzheimer's or and all stuff. It's like again, I get it, but why are we not putting those people on the pedestal too, who are worked
well,
4 or 6 years on a
because it's
new pill?
because you have to make it sexy.
Right.
And this
It's
is what
like,
we're trying to this
yeah,
is our thought experiment right now is how do you make it sexy? How do you make learning and intellectual things sexy? The closest we've come so far is battle bots. Like if I think about it, it's
yeah. It
like
had a
they
wrestler
they
hosting it. Yeah, yeah.
but no, but dude, but look, they've taken like
Creative
this is
ingenious,
engineering and physics and
or like
engineering.
MythBusters type stuff too.
That's another one. It's a great thing. It's a great example. Like those are things that where they did do that. I still watch Adam Savage. He has
Uh,
a YouTube channel called Tested. And I watch Adam Savage Tested all the time. I've never met that dude before, but man, he just seems like somebody I'd like to hang out with and spend time with. Um and ingenious person, man. And Grant Imahara, who passed away, who
yeah,
was on Mythbusters. He was like one of the first BattleBots people. There was like
yeah.
there's this cross pollination of MythBusters people and BattleBots, right? Um, but uh, BattleBots is a great example of like, oh, we're gonna make learning and like we're gonna
Yeah,
turn these nerds into, and I use that term of endearment. We're
yeah,
gonna
it's awesome.
turn these people who are vastly more intelligent than most of
Yeah, who
us.
could tell you everything
And
about inertia and saw blades,
yeah,
and we're
and
gonna reward them for their
right. Here's the thing. It takes a certain amount of excitement and destruction to make it exciting, you know? Uh, so that's maybe a good analog in some ways. But
But to your point, like the
dude, so here's the thing. There would have to be a payoff, right? We have this intellectual battle. All right, whoever loses, like something has to happen to them to make it worth watching this thing. Like they get, they get shoved into a vat of worms or
yeah, it's
something,
like
at
double
the end.
dare for like the intellectual mind.
Or is it part intellectual, part physical, where it's like, okay, the debate's over with. We're going to give each one of them, and you never know what it's going to be. We're going to give each one of them a pillowcase full of
Soap.
a pillowcase full of soap, and they're gonna beat each other until one of them wins. I don't know, but now we're back to just being a dog and pony show, and we've kind of defeated the purpose.
Right.
So I don't know if there really is a way to make look, it's a societal thing too, because if you look at what China's doing with TikTok and what our
Oh,
country's doing with TikTok, and I don't know, we've talked about this before, but for anybody that doesn't know, the algorithm for TikTok in the United States is set up to reward idiotic
dumb
behavior.
shit.
So the dumber the thing is you do on TikTok, the more it's going to get pushed out to the masses. You do something really stupid or that's going to get the most traction. In China, they have the algorithm for TikTok algorithm the opposite. The stupider thing you do, the more it gets throttled. The more intelligent thing you do, like the more like you win your science fair or you come up with some device or you solve some problem, that stuff gets pushed to the front. And so that's engineering society to either care about intelligent accomplishment or to care about stupidity. And so I don't know if we've solved anything with this at all today, but it is an interesting thing to think about. Like, what would we have to do to make real intelligent accomplishment, artistic accomplishment? We do look artistic accomplishment's different, I think, because we do revere like the Banksies and the Rob Pryors and
Yeah, for sure.
or if you look at it through music, you revere the we revere the Beatles and the
Stones and
Stones
whoever.
and the
Yeah.
and Pink Floyd's uh
Crossfade.
and the Crossfades and seriously, I mean, like
Yeah, I love them.
you know
Yeah.
the White Stripes and the Shinedowns
Yeah.
and the Kendrick Lamars and the Doja Cats, right? So it's different also um with art. Like I think that that is a glimmer of hope for me is like, oh, well, but
Like
then,
it
but for me, it's like, okay, but yes, art and music help the world, obviously, but they don't solve all of
no.
the
And to your
hard
point,
things, you know?
there's I walked at least a couple years ago. You would spend more time when you'd be outside. You'd see more wet ass pussy t-shirts than you would a Team Jordan B. Peterson t-shirt or a Team Seneca or like a picture of like
Team
art.
Seneca.
Yeah, or just like you would never see a quote about Marcus Aurelius and war and stuff, but you would see twerking chick showing her asshole off on a t-shirt. It's like that's we have to find out why that's happening. And I mean, I don't care that those people wear that stuff, but we need to figure out we have to start celebrating these minds that are just that deserve to be heard and celebrated just as much in the mainstream pop culture world.
Maybe you and I need to license all of these people and start making
We
like
should just find an up and coming guy that we think has a chance and just take a chance on him.
just get behind him, sign him
Just
to a deal.
sign him to a deal. You got theme music, you got t-shirts. I don't know. That's such an interesting. I mean, we literally almost talked an hour on that. And it's like it's one of those weird things where it's like I never thought about that. How do you market a Ben Carson to where you know him as someone who's a great intellectual uh, medical mind without looking at him as he endorsed Trump, so he's a piece of
Well,
shit. Was it? How's that fair?
I'll say this one more thing, man. I am old enough to remember these these debates that would happen on television. Look, I'm gonna I was when I was a kid, the first we had black and white we didn't have a color TV when I was a kid. Like we got one eventually, but we started out with black and white TV. And I remember watching black and white TV with my dad and asking my dad who's watching something. I was like, who are these people? And for some reason, I remember him very distinctly saying it was Gore Vidal, and Buckley. What was his name? James Buckley. But anyway, there would be these debates on TV that would be like an hour long with no commercial interruption. And these people, William Buckley, that's who it was, William Buckley and Gore Vidal, and they would debate each other over things, and people would watch this on TV, uh, people seem to be more intellectually attuned to things. I'm not saying that it was done in a fun way that everyone would want to watch, but it was out there, you know, and we don't really get that anymore. Everything is, I mean, we get debate, but there are five talking heads on a screen on a CNN channel, and they're all arguing and talking over each other, and each one has 20 seconds to say what they think, and it's just that's conducive to arguing. That's like watching the Jerry Springer show,
Yeah.
you know. Uh, that's why podcasts are so popular now, man. If you can get, people want to hear people's thoughts, and that is something else that makes me feel good. Uh, I can watch Destiny, battle Jordan Peterson on, or or who was it recently? It was it Chink Uger, and it wasn't this, and against who was it? The thing is like those battles can happen on YouTube. You
Right.
can find them. But making them exciting, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know
To
what.
to kind of go back, like it is difficult to name a not legendary, but like a great woman thinker. Like from that era, it's usually a lot of men, right? Like what was the
Well,
first time?
we hear about the men, and yeah, I mean, yeah. So you're gonna, who was the first woman thinker in history? I guess is that where you're going
Yeah,
with
like,
it?
trying to look up right now, like some of the names. Anne Conway, I've heard of. Okay, so who's Sosipatra? Uh, she was a Neoplatonist philosopher and mystic who lived in Ephesus and Paragon in the first half of the fourth century CE.
Huh?
She was a Greek philosopher.
Did she have a lot of writings and stuff,
Yeah, a lot
or
of books, a lot of poetry, just about the sciences.
wow?
But like,
Yeah.
her story looks awesome. She looks badass in the paintings. But like,
So
how come it never?
I wonder why that is. So there's like a lot of people will point to patriarchy and just say, oh, men have been pushed and women have not, which I will I will I will agree is a reality and has been a reality throughout history. But why? This is something interesting to think about. Why, as society, do we tend to be drawn more to men in with things like that than women? Like, because there's got to be a biological reason and a societal reason that kind of go along with it. Um,
Well,
I'm
because
not.
I think that era, like,
I love like I don't care if you're male female at all. Like if I stumble across someone intelligent speaking intelligently about something and I'm enjoying it, I don't care who it is, right? Uh, but for some reason we do throughout time and even now, like have a tendency to be more plugged into men and what the male mind is saying than the female mind, and that doesn't that it, I find that odd. Now that we're talking about it, why is that? Like I said, there has to be some sort of you know, I don't think that I'm societally programmed to think that men's opinions are more important than women's opinions. I don't feel that way at all. So why do we hear more from men than we do from women and with things with philosophy and things like this? I don't
yeah,
know.
it's interesting. But like, I don't even know in this day and age. Like, I don't know who there was. Like Suzanne Hack, Angela Davis. Like a lot of these people. I don't know. Like, I maybe I mixed it up. Like, I don't know if a philosopher back then is the name still the same today.
What do you
Like,
mean?
when you look at Socrates or whoever, they were considered philosophers back then. Does that term still mean the same thing today, or is it the definition or what the perceived idea of what a philosopher looks like or acts like? Did that change over time?
I
Could
don't
that be
know.
part of the problem?
I don't know. I have no idea about that. I would assume that they were writers and thinkers then. They're right.
Right.
That's what we
Like, was
consider them
Margaret
now.
Thatcher? Could Margaret Thatcher be considered a great philosopher?
No, she was a politician.
Right.
I mean, she had some great
Ideas.
ideas. She probably had some bad ideas.
So a philosopher is someone who doesn't take, who just speaks about life, humanity, life lessons, doesn't really, not picking a political side, correct?
I guess they can have opinions about that stuff, but it's
Right.
mainly when I think about thinkers, it's trying to figure out human problems. Like the problem of being a human. When I think about Stoics and philosophers, I feel like they're trying to solve the problems of existence because there is, and this plays into what we've talked about before about how like I feel like I depression's been like just really, really just digging in on me lately. It's been super bad. And when I get in these places of sort of dissociating, I get this feeling like I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Like none of this is real. Like nothing around me is real. And uh, I feel like I'm wearing an uncomfortable suit, like this human suit, and it's not really meant for me. And then I get these thoughts like, all of this is a test. Everything that I'm going through. What if? What if being a human being is a test? What if I have an infinite soul that is meant to spread out to all points of existence? And as a test, my infinite spirit gets shoved into this container that is no longer infinite. I'm infinite inside, but not outside. And it's a test to see how well I do or if I survive, meaning like when I think about suicide and stuff. Now this is getting a little deep, but this is what my brain does. It's like if I kill myself, I failed the test, you know? Like I'm here to like uh I've even thought, well, maybe the test is to see who can get out quickly enough. Maybe staying in it is
Stay, the longer you stay, the more you're
maybe
failing. Yeah.
I'm just telling this is what my brain does. Maybe staying in it is failing, right? Maybe it's who realizes that this is a test soon enough to want to check out and get back to being infinite again. I don't know. But uh for me, philosophers and Stoics and these types,
So,
these people currently, I mean, look, I look at a Peterson right now, and he strikes me as a modern day sort of philosophy. And they're always flawed. These people are flawed, man.
correct.
All of them are
They're
flawed,
fucked up.
just like the rest of us. But they're thinking about existence, right? And so the Stoics and philosophers are there to help certain people who can't articulate the way they feel, maybe articulate existence. They can articulate existence in a certain way. Um, and uh, that's what being a thinker is. And I mean, maybe I'm not a stoic, I'm not a philosopher, but I think an awful lot about existence, you know. And maybe that's why these people appeal to me is because they're helping me navigate this test or this this meat suit that I'm in. They're helping they're helping everyone. They're putting into words what no one else can put into words about what it feels like to be a human being.
Right.
um why we have you know I would love to, and maybe this is my wake up call to like find women stoics and women and thinkers and philosophers who women down throughout the ages that I don't know about. You know, it's definitely I guarantee it would be a different insight for sure.
Yeah. So maybe before next episode, we each have to find one
Mm.
and then kind of research it and present to our masses.
Yeah, I'm into that. I'm into that. But
Watch them have all the answers to and be like, God damn
oh
it, why didn't
yeah,
we
I
listen
know.
to these people from day one?
Yes, it's the because the Matrix is in
Well, women
charge.
are always right, so I mean that's probably
We
why
have
we
we
shed that from.
we have no choice. They're always right.
Correct. Well, this is a good episode, dude.
Yeah.
It's a long one. Hope you guys
What?
enjoy it. Bye.